Once upon a time, in a cozy little village in Italy, lived a kind old woodcarver named Geppetto. Geppetto was a master of his craft, carving beautiful clocks, music boxes, and toys. But despite being surrounded by his wonderful creations, he felt a deep loneliness in his heart. More than anything, he wished for a son of his own. One day, while working on a special piece of pine wood, Geppetto had an idea. "I'll carve myself a little boy," he exclaimed. He worked tirelessly, his hands moving with skill and love. He carved a head with a mischievous grin, two bright eyes, and a long, pointy nose. He crafted little arms and legs, a round tummy, and even a pointed hat. When he was finished, he stood back and admired his work. "I shall call you Pinocchio," he said softly. That night, as Geppetto slept, a magical light filled his workshop. The blue fairy, with wings that sparkled like 1,000 stars, floated down to the wooden puppet. She had heard Geppetto's heartfelt wish. "Little puppet made of pine," she whispered, touching Pinocchio with her wand. "Wake. The gift of life is thine." Pinocchio's wooden eyes blinked open. He wiggled his fingers and then his toes. He could move, he could talk. He was alive. The blue fairy smiled gently. "Pinocchio," she said, "I have given you life. But to become a real boy of flesh and blood, you must prove yourself brave, truthful, and unselfish." To help him on his journey, the blue fairy appointed a wise little cricket named Jiminy Cricket to be his official conscience. Jiminy, quite surprised but honored, promised to do his best to guide Pinocchio along the right path. The next morning, Geppetto awoke to the most wonderful surprise of his life. Pinocchio was dancing around the workshop. Overjoyed, Geppetto hugged his little wooden boy. He was no longer lonely. He treated Pinocchio just like a real son, buying him books and sending him off to school, just like the other boys. "Now be a good boy," Geppetto said, giving him a kiss on his wooden cheek. "Go straight to school and learn." Pinocchio, excited for his first day, promised he would. With Jiminy Cricket perched on his shoulder, he skipped happily down the cobblestone street. However, Pinocchio's journey to school was quickly sidetracked. He met a sly fox named Honest John and his bumbling cat companion, Gideon. They saw Pinocchio, a stringless puppet who could walk and talk, and immediately saw a way to make money. "School?" Honest John scoffed. "Why waste your time with books when you can be a star? The easy road to success is on the stage." Despite Jiminy Cricket's warnings, Pinocchio was tempted by the promise of fame and fortune. He forgot all about his promise to Geppetto and followed the cunning fox to the puppet theater of the fearsome Stromboli. Pinocchio was an instant sensation. The crowd cheered as he sang and danced without any strings. Stromboli was thrilled and counted his piles of gold coins. But when the show was over and Pinocchio wanted to go home, Stromboli's true colors were revealed. He laughed cruelly and threw Pinocchio into a birdcage. "You belong to me now," he roared. "You will make me rich." Locked in the cage, Pinocchio was terrified. He had disobeyed his father and his conscience. He cried for help, and his tears called the Blue Fairy. "Why weren't you at school, Pinocchio?" she asked softly. Ashamed, Pinocchio tried to lie. I was captured by big green monsters." As the words left his mouth, his nose began to grow. Longer and longer it stretched, with leaves and even a bird's nest sprouting from the end. Pinocchio was shocked. The Blue Fairy explained, "A lie will keep growing and growing until it is as plain as the nose on your face." Realizing his mistake, Pinocchio told the truth. He confessed that he had been foolish and had gone with Honest John. As soon as he told the truth, his nose shrank back to its normal size. The Blue Fairy, seeing he was sorry, freed him from the cage. "This is the last time I can help you, Pinocchio," she warned. "Remember, a boy who won't be good might just as well be made of wood." Pinocchio promised to go straight home, but on his way he once again ran into Honest John. This time the fox had an even more tempting offer, a trip to a wonderful place called Pleasure Island, where there were no rules, no school, and endless fun and games. "It's a paradise for boys," the fox declared. Once again, Pinocchio ignored Jiminy Cricket's pleas and eagerly climbed aboard a coach heading for the island. Pleasure Island was everything he had been promised. He played pool, broke windows, and ate candy until he was sick. He made a new friend, a naughty boy named Lampwick, and together they caused all sorts of trouble. But soon, a terrible secret was revealed. Pleasure Island had a curse. Boys who acted like jackasses were literally turned into them. To his horror, Pinocchio watched as Lampwick grew long ears and a tail and began to bray. Then Pinocchio felt his own ears growing long and furry, and a tail sprouted from his back. Terrified, he and Jiminy Cricket managed to escape the island just in time, diving into the sea. Pinocchio was not a full donkey, but he still had the ears and tail as a reminder of his bad choices. When they finally reached Geppetto's workshop, it was empty. A note, carried by a dove from the Blue Fairy, explained the terrible news. Geppetto, worried sick, had gone out to sea in a small boat to search for Pinocchio and had been swallowed by a monstrous whale named Monstro, my father. Pinocchio cried, "He's in danger because of me. I have to save him." For the first time, Pinocchio wasn't thinking about himself. He was thinking about someone he loved. He tied a rock to his donkey tail and bravely jumped into the ocean, with Jiminy close behind. He searched the vast ocean floor until he, too, was swallowed by the giant whale. Inside Monstro's belly, it was dark and vast, like a huge cavern, and there, on a makeshift raft, was Geppetto. Their reunion was full of tears and joy. Geppetto couldn't believe his eyes. But how could they escape? Pinocchio came up with a clever, brave plan. "We'll make him sneeze," he said. They gathered wood from wrecked ships inside the whale's belly and started a huge fire. The smoke tickled Monstro's nose. The whale tossed and turned. and then a CHOO with a gigantic sneeze. Monstro shot the raft out of his mouth and high into the air. They were free, but the angry whale chased them, smashing their raft to pieces. Geppetto couldn't swim without a second thought. The brave little puppet grabbed his father and swam with all his might towards the shore, pushing him to safety just as a giant wave crashed down upon him. Pinocchio washed ashore, lifeless and still. Geppetto carried his little wooden boy home, his heart broken. He laid Pinocchio on his bed and wept for the son he had found and lost. But Pinocchio's selfless and brave act had not gone unnoticed. A familiar light once again filled the room. The blue fairy appeared, her voice full of warmth. "You have proven yourself brave, truthful, and unselfish," she said, "and now you shall have your reward." With a touch of her wand, a magical light enveloped Pinocchio. His donkey ears and tail vanished, his wooden limbs softened and warmed. He was no longer a puppet. He was a real, living boy. Pinocchio sat up and hugged his father. Geppetto laughed with a joy he had never known. Jiminy Cricket received a solid gold badge that read Official Conscience, and they all celebrated together, a happy, real family at last. And so Pinocchio learned that being real isn't about what you're made of, but about the love in your heart and the courage to always do the right thing. Thank you so much for watching this classic story with us. If you enjoyed it, please give us a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more wonderful fairy tales. See you next time.